Thanks for dressing up for the video shoot today. Nice haircut. How are we doing today? Today we're going to get our cameras out of the auto mode and we're going to talk about aperture priority. What is aperture priority? Stay tuned, we're going to learn about it. With a little help from my friend Steve here. Steve, why so blue? Betty, roll the intro.
Sun comes up and rises high. It's so hot, it's gonna make me cry. Oh Lord, oh Lord. Temperature rising, rising to my heart, to the roof, yeah, to the bone.
Okay, aperture priority. What is it? Well, if you look on the dials on your camera, on the top of your camera, there's going to be a little dial there to set the modes for your camera. It's going to say either AV, or on a Canon, it's going to say AV, or other cameras just say A. AV stands for aperture value, and A stands for aperture. And what aperture priority is you set the aperture in your camera. What is the aperture? It's the diameter of the opening to let light into your lens. Okay? And it's measured by F numbers. F2.8, F1.8. The smaller the number, the larger the diameter of the hole, the larger the diameter of the aperture, to let more light in. And I know it's a little confusing, but so F2.8, for example, is a very large diameter and lets a ton of light in. F8 is about middle of the road. F11 is about middle of the road. It's about halfway. And then F22 is a very small opening, which lets a little bit of light through. What aperture priority does is you set the aperture you want for the scene that you're trying to capture, the mood of the photo, or the light that's available to you in order to get a proper exposure. And the camera will set the shutter speed. You in turn are able to adjust the ISO. Well, what's the ISO? The ISO is the sensor's how sensitive the sensor is to light. 100 ISO is less sensitive. 2000 ISO is extremely sensitive, which will make the higher the ISO will make your photo brighter. So, aperture priority, you set the aperture that you want in your camera, and the camera does the rest for you. Does all the other settings for you. Sets the shutter speed. A lot of professional photographers use this in situations where they have to shoot quickly. Like if you're at an event, a wedding, something like that. Some of the action's happening quickly, and you have a constant movement, and you're doing a lot of shots. Aperture priority is awesome for that because you just boom, 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 shoot, and the camera does the calculations for you. So the best way to describe aperture, what it does besides let the amount of light in, is it can blur your background. The smaller the F number, the larger the aperture, the blurrier the background is going to be. Do you ever notice in like magazines or you go on Instagram or Facebook and you're looking through somebody's feed and all of a sudden, wow, that's a really cool picture, and you can't seem to replicate the photo. You try and you try and you try. Well, a lot of times what it is the background is so out of focus that the subject is popping out at you. And the way to do that is through your aperture on your lens. You know what? The easiest way to do this is to just show you. So let's get at it. You ready, Steve? Let's go. Okay, the first thing we got to do is get the camera out of the auto mode and into aperture priority, which on a Canon is AV. All right, we got our shot set up here. We got Steve looking all Stevie, and I'm using a 50mm lens. It goes from, let's see, it goes from 1.8, f1.8, which is a huge diameter aperture, and is going to let a lot of light in, and it's going to blur the background. The background of this shot is just going to be a soft, mushy mess. But Steve will be tack sharp. So at f1.8, we have a shutter speed of 1/4000th of a second. Why is that so fast? Well, it's because it's so bright out here. We've got an Arizona sun beating down on us today, and everything is bright. So in order to get a proper exposure, the shutter has to open and close extremely fast, just to let a little bit of light in due to the wide aperture. Our ISO is at 100. That'll stay constant through all the shots. So let's just take one here and take a look at it. All right, Steve, smile. There we go. That's f1.8. Now the interesting thing that happens is when you change your f number, let's do that. The sun is so bright here. All right, we're going to go to f5.6, which is another basic stop that a lot of photographers use. This is like a quarter way up the scale, but at 5.6, our shutter speed went to 1/500th of a second, which is awesome. The faster the shutter speed, it also freezes movement. So if your subject is moving, Steve, stay still. If your subject is moving, or your hair is flying around or whatever, it'll freeze that. Same with the background. We've got a little breeze going here, and the trees are kind of moving around a little bit. Not so important with a larger aperture, because that's going to be a blurry mess anyway. But we'll see how that affects us later. All right, let's take this shot at 5.6. All right, Steve, big smile. Bigger. Perfect. All right, take a look at that shot. That's 5.6 at 1/500th of a second. As you notice, when we change in aperture priority, when we change the f number, the aperture, the size of the opening, the shutter speed is being changed automatically. Let's do the next one. All right, we're going to go up to, let's see, that was 5.6. This is f8. Nah, we better go a little bigger. Let's go to f11. This is f11. A lot of times the sweet spot of a lens is right in the middle. f8, f11, something like that. But you're going to lose that creaminess in the background. That you're starting to lose it anyway. So let's take another one here at f11, and our shutter speed, interestingly enough, has gone down to 1/125th of a second. So it's getting slower. The shutter, as the diameter of the aperture closes and gets smaller, letting less light in, to maintain the accurate exposure, the proper exposure, the shutter has to stay open longer. Okay? All right, Steve, you ready? All right, give me a moody look now. Something really moody looking. Moodier. Kind of angry. Perfect. Okay. See how the background is now starting to come into focus a little more? It's starting to get a little sharper. We're losing that blurry background. By the way, the blurry background is called bokeh. A lot of people like to say that word bokeh, bokeh, bokehini, bokaroonie, whatever you want to call it. I just call it the blurry background because it's easier to... People know what you're talking about then. Okay. All right, so that was f11. Let's go all the way up to This is as tight as this lens goes, is f/22. And our shutter speed, holy cow, our shutter speed, even in this bright light, has gone down to 1/30th of a second. That's slow. So, if your subject is moving, you're going to get motion blur in your subject. So, the wind has stopped now, so let's see if we can get a sharp background here. All right, Steve, ready? We need you to smile. Bigger smile. I tell you what, I'll give you some motivation. Let's pretend Shania Twain actually called you back. Well, Shania Twain didn't call you back. Actually, your attorney called you back, and said something about cease and desist, but I'm not sure what that means, but whatever. Potato, tomato, whatever. It's still Shania Twain. Ready, Steve? Here we go. Big smile. Perfect. Boom. That's f/22 at 1/30th of a second. Now, look, I'm going to throw all these things on the screen right now, and you'll be able to see the difference between these shots. Steve is staying in focus and still, but the background is changing. The blurriness of the background is changing. And you can, whatever effect you want, you can adjust by just adjusting your aperture in aperture priority. Go out and give that a try, okay? All right. I'm going to take some more pictures, and then me and Steve are going to go get some lunch because, Steve, it looks like you could use a sandwich. Perfect. See you guys. Get out there and take some pictures. Okay, I'm going to try something a little different, and I don't want you to lose your head over this.